Welcome to the World of EUC Elevate webinar. We are glad you were able to join us today to learn more about how you can go from reactive to proactive with Nexthink. I'm Rich Faulkner. I'm a World of EUC member, and I will be your moderator for today. First, a few housekeeping items. Please use the chat for discussion and place your questions in the Q&A panel so that we can keep track of what questions are coming in. This also allows us to follow up if we miss any questions during the webinar. And also, we want you to stay till the end for some exciting prizes. You can win a Nexthink Yeti mug or a first edition World of EUC t-shirt. So let's get started. I would like to introduce Tim Flower, Vice President of Dex Strategy, and Michael Lovewell, Senior Solution Consultant at Nexthink. How are you guys doing today? And let me do that one more time because I messed up on the switching the slides over, okay? Welcome to the World of EUC Elevate webinar. We're glad you were able to join us today to learn more about how to go from reactive to proactive with Nexthink. I'm Rich Faulkner. I'm a World of EUC member, and I will be your moderator for today. First, a few housekeeping items. Please use the chat for discussion and place your questions in the Q&A panel so we can keep track of what questions are coming in. This also allows us to follow up if we miss any questions during the webinar. And also, we'd like you to stay to the end for some exciting prizes. You can win a Nexthink Yeti mug or a first edition World of EUC t-shirt. So let's get started. I would like to introduce Tim Flower, Vice President of Dex Strategy, and Michael Lovewell, Senior Solution Consultant at Nexthink. How are you guys doing today?
We're good, Rich, and really happy to be here with this audience. I love being able to speak to technology communities. So this is a really good opportunity. As Rich said, my name is Tim Flower. I'm the VP of Dex Strategy at Nexthink. I came to Nexthink almost 9 years ago now after becoming a customer. I had implemented Nexthink in 2013 at the Hartford and made such dramatic change to how we operate that I decided to come over to the dark side and help spread the word. So I'm the co-host of our podcast, The Dex Show. We've got a book called Dex for Dummies, and you can get me on LinkedIn and YouTube at the Proactive IT Guy. My career actually started, though, in 1988, the dawn of end-user compute with DOS. I believe at the time it was DOS 3X World, 4X, early Windows versions, and went on to become NetWare certified, Novell NetWare 311 and 4X, servicing at Digital Equipment, servicing some great customers and enterprises in the Hartford area, Aetna, CVS, UTC, GTE, and a lot of the insurance companies, including the Hartford. In 1995, though, I decided to make a change from digital and focus just on a single end user compute environment. So I went to the Hartford at the birth of Windows 95 and lived through migrations to Active Directory and implementations of technologies we know and love, SMS, Altiris, Symantec, used some great platforms in tech like Ghost and WinInstall and SMS Installer, and then got into virtualization with Citrix and VDI on ESX. And then Nexthink came in, and we made such fundamental change that I decided to come over and help spread the word. Essentially, though, for today's webinar, and again, I want to welcome everybody. The goal for today is to just get a little bit of education out there on how you can actually move from reactive to proactive. It was our big push at the Hartford. We got tired of being reactive. We got tired of depending on our employees calling the help desk, and we know that only half of them call anyway. So the goal today is to just talk through a little bit of my journey towards the world of what we now call DEX, Digital Employee Experience. Proactive IT, though, changes the game, and it did for us in a big way. So we'll go through that for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then like every good presentation, we want to show it to you. So we'll give you a couple of use cases. Mike Lovewell's here to do a bit of demo, and any questions during the session, feel free to pop them into the Q&A, and we'll do our best to answer them on the fly.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing now, Mike, if you want to take over, and we'll let you guys get going.
Absolutely.
That information. Okay.
Yeah, so covered the basics. The podcast, 4 years running now, 150 episodes, plenty of great content to binge over the weekend if you're looking for some content to listen to. And our rule is much like Fight Club. The first rule is you don't talk about Fight Club. So it's not about Nexthink per se. We got great guests like Adam Grant and Ariana Huffington, leaders in what it means in today's day and age to be an employee. We've had some really good conversations with some great leaders around the world. The book Decks for Dummies, we can get the ebook to you and certainly find a way to get the hard copy to you and then connect with me online. So, if we flip, Mike, to the next slide, what I wanted to do is kind of cover that move to proactive IT that I experienced at the Hartford. Don't want to kill you with PowerPoint. Really look at this as an opportunity to tell some stories and be a little more conversational with it. So Hartford, as a over 200-year-old company, there's a lot of folks there that have been at the company for 30 and even 40, 45 years, and they're very much stewards of the brand. And in 2008, our stock went from $107 to $3.33. And the last thing we wanted to do or to be was be at the helm when a company of that stature went under. So we did everything we could to help the brand survive. Essentially what it meant was stop anything technology related that wasn't specifically connected to survival. So software maintenance got canceled, PC refresh got canceled, anything that wasn't related to keeping the lights on. And what we found ourselves in a position of was, by the time we got to 2011, 2012, was significant tech debt. 30,000 employees, all running legacy operating systems, legacy browsers. So we decided to re-platform our entire environment. We went department by department and upgraded desktops, browsers, plugins. We remediated or upgraded over 2,000 applications. And as we tested and deployed to our departments, we found that getting current on current technology was causing more tickets to the help desk. And by the end of the program, we had chosen not to stop. We decided to remediate as we went. At the end of the program, we had almost doubled our incident tickets at the help desk. We went from 30,000 a month to 52,000 a month. And during this time, our executive team, our CEO and senior VPs from the business were doing some field office visits. They visited San Francisco among a lot of other offices. And coming back to Hartford, they pulled several of us into the office and described the significant complaints that they got from the field related to technology. All we could say was, Liam, we don't know they have issues unless they call us. He was describing things that we had never heard of from the field. And we said, Liam, that's why we've got a help desk. We need the employees to call the help desk. And he stopped, and it felt like forever. He leaned in and he said, are you kidding me? Our employees need to stop what they're doing, pick up the phone and call you to tell you about a problem that you don't know about, but that you probably caused. And we, on our inside voice, we kind of said, well, yeah, where you been? It's been like that forever. That's why we have a help desk. But we left that office with a couple of statements that stayed with us and still stay with me. The first was, we survived the financial crisis. Now IT is going to put us out of business. So as significant as the financial crisis was, and as big a risk as it was to our business, our CEO felt that technology was a bigger risk to survival of the brand. The other thing he said to us was, remember, you do not have 30,000 people on the IT payroll. They are not your IT monitors. Go find a different way. So we left with support from the top. As a 200-year-old company, we had one of everything. We had the SMS, we had the VDI tool, we had the APM tool, we had the diagnostic tool. All of those things, though, couldn't give us the real-time data and the metrics and the context of what the employees were doing. So we POV'd Nexthink. The POV was enlightening. because it showed us things. We POV'd on 2,000 endpoints in a call center, and we found things that were just I think the only way I can put it is shocking. Coupled with the stories, I had gone out into our field offices and visited 40 field offices around the country as well. And coupled with some of the stories from our field offices, we were able to justify a purchase of the product. Those field office visits, though, for me were also enlightening. I was seeing lawyers in Cincinnati waiting 90 minutes for an application to load, and then hearing that they didn't call the help desk because it's a helpless desk. They don't help. They'll break 3 things while they fix this one thing. I'm completely unproductive when I'm on the phone with them. So hearing stories around the country about the problems with our support organization that we didn't realize, coupled with what we saw in the POV, allowed us to bring the product in. And we rolled out fairly quickly across our 30,000 devices. And what we found across our environment matched what we found in our POV, but to a much greater scale. The 3 big things that were contributing to our ticket volume at our help desk, the first was blue screens across the country, but only on the desktops. And we found that a legacy NIC driver had made its way into the build and was causing the blue screen. One driver update solved that problem for us. We found the hard stop, essentially a crash, hard stop of the device without a blue screen, and determined that it was employees only on laptops doing the 5-second power down in the middle of the day. And the cause for that was a screen freeze. The video driver, legacy video driver, caused a crash, and the screen froze. And the only solution for the employee at that point is to reboot and then go through all of the slow boot, slow log on, application hangs, and crashes that they were dealing with. And that was the third thing we found. All of those symptoms of my PC is slow, it's not responsive, applications hang, they crash, was related to RAM. In our program, we were able to do interoperability, compatibility testing, usability testing, but we didn't have tools or time to do load testing. And we found across 30,000 devices, plus about 8,000 in VDI, that they were all memory constrained, causing all of those issues. So what we did was we chose to pilot a memory upgrade in the same San Francisco office that our CEO had gone to, and upgraded 100 devices. And you would have thought we cured cancer. Every symptom went away. The slow boot, the slow logon, the hangs, the crashes. My slow PC was suddenly a great device. And we found that because of the Nexthink data showing us memory utilization. We could no longer blame the network team for a slow network link out to California. It was RAM. And the big aha moment for us was not only did we find the technical problem and all of the symptoms related to it, we were able to demonstrate that a memory upgrade solved the utilization issue and the symptoms. We got feedback from those 100 employees that it was the best thing since sliced bread. But here's the bigger thing for us. We had the same data and metrics on the other 29,900 devices around the enterprise. And we were able to go into IT finance with that data and get a memory upgrade approved in about a week. We didn't go in with our fingers crossed and saying, well, it worked in San Francisco, we think it's going to work for everybody else. We had the concrete proof, and the additional benefit was we didn't need to wait to see what happened to our ticket volume at the help desk. We were able to get the immediate gratification that once an office was upgraded, that we solved all of these other problems. So it was a game changer for us in terms of stabilizing our environment. And then we went on to do hardware and software asset management, governance, automation, so many use cases. But the punchline for us was that our ticket volume of 52,000 came down to 30,000, our original baseline, and then to 20,000. Hartford now is at about 7,000 a month from a high of 52,000. It's over an 80% reduction in L1 tickets, never mind L2 and L3. And at $5 each to our service provider at the help desk, It's a $2.5 million cost savings each and every year. And I'll tell you, we didn't pay $2.5 million for the product. So stabilizing the environment, our huge aha, and that's why we use the light bulb. We're not in the dark anymore. We see what employees are going through. And for IT, there's a new idea, a new way of doing business. We didn't name it Project Nexthink. We named it Project Edison. Our big aha was we can deliver better service faster and watch our costs come down in the process. Usually you can only have two of the three: speed, quality, and cost. We found it kind of makes sense when you say it out loud. If you're delivering better quality, more stable environment at a faster pace, you can reduce your costs. And again, we went on to a lot of the other use cases to bring even more value. And now, being at Nexthink almost 9 years, talking around the world at Gartner, our own experience events, lots of webinars, talking individually to groups of folks and one-on-one with CIOs, I see customers doing the same thing over and over again, implementing things like SCCM governance, password reminders and prompts to solve the expired password problem, OneDrive cleanups, software harvesting, hardware refresh based on performance and health versus age. Even have customers using our Engage capability to do an internal net promoter score. And it's all about flipping technology teams from a reactive stance to a proactive stance. We created, with that capacity, we created a proactive services team, and all they did was focus proactively on the environment. After I left Hartford, I heard that our CTO disbanded the proactive services team. And I said, guys, why would Mark do that? We spent so much time and effort creating the proactive team. Why would he disband it? And they said, Tim, you don't understand. Mark felt that we were making everyone else look bad. If we're proactive, what's everybody else? So the proactive methodology and the proactive mindset was essentially deployed over all of IT, put in the command center, leveraged across multiple teams. And now IT is seen as a proactive strategic partner with the business versus a high cost bunch of firefighters. So tons more stories to tell. You can catch me up on YouTube. I'll tell a few more up there. Mike, let's flip to the kind of the closeout, and then I'll turn it over to you. Connect with us on our website. We got a really robust customer community, community.nexthink.com. Our DEX hub is material, content, blogs, articles, thought leaders and ideas about DEX and how to implement. Again, subscribe or listen to the DEX show. Would love to get more folks there. And we'll get you at least, the very least, a copy of the ebook DEX for Dummies. Appreciate everybody's time, but what I really want to do is give Mike the stage and let you see this thing. I love, the best part of my job is getting the holy cow moment to as many people as I can. So Mike, with that, I'll turn it over to you. Appreciate everybody's time.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Tim. I get re-energized every time I hear you tell that story, because I think it's great to reminisce about the success of that organization, but also, it's very similar to what I see current customers, prospective customers kind of struggle with and want to get towards when we're in these new engagements. So again, my name is Mike Lovewell. I'm a senior solution consultant here. I always joke, I don't host a podcast. I did not write a book. I'm not an author, but I have been here for 6 years. So I've kind of seen the evolution of this digital employee experience market. And, to the title of today's webinar, I'm going to show you some very tangible, some real life scenarios of where people have taken a reactive approach, made it proactive, and then, removed that reactive approach and relied on Nexthink just solely for that proactive benefit, in terms of improving IT functions and overall employee experience. So again, Nexthink is a digital employee experience monitoring solution. We are sitting on these endpoints, your physical virtual devices, laptops, desktops, Windows, Mac OS, and we are seeing all of this telemetry in real time. I have crashes, freezes, I have logon boot information, every execution, every warning, every event that's happening on these devices, I can see in real time. I can see it over time. I can start to diagnose it, use some machine learning and AI functions to correlate this data to make suggestions about what I should be focusing on. What is keeping my end users from, getting the best possible experience with the services that we're providing? That is all in the realm of what Nexthink's going to be able to do. So I'm going to start in that reactive mode where I have a ticket, I have an email, I have somebody telling me that they're having an issue with their device. We, of course, have integrations into ITSM platforms to pre-populate tickets and all of that. I am going to just focus on what Nexthink can see and start with what we call the device timeline view. So often, to Tim's story before, the struggle is for me to identify that there's an issue. I need a ticket to come in. And then once that ticket comes in, I'm going to have to go out to that end user and say, when did it start? What else was happening on your endpoint? Is it just happening in the morning versus the afternoon versus the evening? What are you actually working on while those things are occurring? It's not only ineffective for the help desk or the service desk agent, but it's extremely disruptive to the end user, right? I'm sure people on this call, right? When you have an IT issue, your first instinct is very rarely to go in and to create that support ticket, to get some help. You're going to go in and do some self-service. You might ask the person, next to you if they're having the same problem. There is an immense amount of loss of productivity that goes on with, that suffering and silence methodology. So insert Nexthink, when I have that endpoint that I know is having a problem, I can pull up their device and I have all of this historical context on this machine. I have things around application crashes. I can see CPU and memory utilization. I can also see system drive space, right? Which on this particular endpoint seems to be a massive, massive issue. I have connectivity data around network speed, TCP and UDP connections, even VPN performance. I can see things like collaboration calls. So if you have poor audio or video on, a Zoom webinar or a Teams session, I'm going to see that inside the Nexthink platform, even down to interaction and performance of critical applications, both SaaS applications and desktop applications. I'm going to be able to sort of identify from my end user's point of view in this case. And if anything on this dashboard is of interest, right, I can drill in to something like a CPU spike and get even more context that Nexthink's going to provide on this right-hand panel. So a lot of information, sometimes new information, especially in that reactive support model. But the way that we make that information consumable and very digestible to somebody on the support team side is by summarizing it into what we call checklists. So right out of the box, you're going to be able to look at this endpoint at a very high level, showing things like the device and peripherals. So how many monitors are they using? What's the actual make and model of their device? What's the installed memory? What's the OS? What are the security solutions that you're leveraging? But probably the most beneficial one from that reactive troubleshooting standpoint is the level 1 checklist. This is meant to give you insight into those top 15, 20 items that are most common to be the root cause of, some slow PC, some just general discomfort or issues on the endpoint. And if I go down the list here, you can see I'm calling out with a rating basis, high CPU, system drive usage issues. I have boot and logon data, compliance and stability information, Wi-Fi signal strength, all of those, very, very good level 1, troubleshooting metrics. But when I drill into one of these things, like system drive usage being a problem, Nexthink will actually associate and recommend certain remediations that you should be taking on this device. So if system drive usage is coming back with a red error, then I might want to go in and execute a disk cleanup on this particular machine. So you can see all the data. Nexthink's going to help you diagnose what the actual problem is, in this case, CPU system drive usage. And then we can actually fix the problem in the back end. If system drive usage is over 90% utilized, I want to go in and do a disk cleanup, or maybe reboot the machine, do a system cleanup. You have all of these remote actions or remediations that you can start to leverage on this particular endpoint. The reactive plus, or sort of shift to that proactive piece, is this is not probably the only user that has low disk space on their machine. So I can actually, extend this to the entire organization and make a rule or a condition to say, hey, anytime that a user is over 90% utilized, or they have 5 or less gigs of free space left, I want Nexthink to automatically run that disk cleanup in the background for that user. So for things that are repeat issues, low disk space, days since last reboot, proactive password reset, right, days until a password's about to expire, I can have Nexthink go in and run these on a fully automated basis with no IT interaction, no user interaction, to start to improve the overall performance of these devices. But as I mentioned, and as we saw in that timeline, there could be more complex issues that you're going to need Nexthink to give some insight into. Like we're seeing here, I have some CPU spikes on this device. So if I go back to that timeline, and I wanted to focus on a CPU spike or something like an application crash, I can take that particular moment in time. I have a little bit more context on the right-hand side, right? What the solution is that's crashing, when it's crashing, how many times it's crashed. But I can go in and troubleshoot the execution crashes here across the board, across the organization. So even if you start, again, at one device, I can take that problem and extend it to, in this case, 85 machines that are experiencing that same exact issue. In the last week, we've had 85 machines with that crash. I've seen 213 total crashes across the environment. Again, here's some trend data on who's experiencing the issue. Here's a heat map of where we're seeing that problem occur. But ultimately, what I think is very unique to Nexthink and what makes it very, very valuable for our customers is this troubleshooting arm. So if I'm looking at something as complex as an application crash, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to benchmark you against all of our other Nexthink customer data. So we have roughly 17 million endpoints in our fleet under management today. And in this case, I can see that 16% of our devices, in our organization have the crash, where it's only a 2% crash across all other Nexthink customer environments. And if I go down a level further, I briefly mentioned some of that machine learning, some correlation engines that we have in the background, where we're actually going to bubble up areas of relevancy in terms of what the root cause is for this application crash. Where if I go over, I can see that a version of this binary, this 6.37 version, is crashing 70% of the time in our organization. And I know it's probably pretty tough for you to see, but that little blue box says 71% of the time in other Nexthink customer environments. So, as a whole, that application is stable, but basically across the board, this particular version of the application is very unstable, right? And not only that, we're showing you what the problem is, but we're actually giving you a recommendation. We have a new version of that application, which is, extremely, extremely stable, right? Barely any crashes on our devices. It's expected to reduce our crash ratio by 96%. So what I can do is I can drill into these devices that have that problem, right? Go down to that full list, that full scope of users that I know are experiencing this issue. I can reach out to them, execute an action against all of them to uninstall a particular application, right? So I mentioned we have these scripts, we call them remote actions inside Nexthink, where I can go out to these users and on the fly dynamically apply that remediation to these users, and then set up that rule in the background to say, anytime that we see a device go to that particular version of the security agent, we're going to make sure that it goes to the correct version, right? The one that we know is stable across the environment. So I know it was a lot of information there, but really we started with an endpoint that I knew was complaining about some slow performance. I identified that they had some disk space issues, and I fixed it for them. But upon doing some troubleshooting, doing some diagnostics on that endpoint, I noticed that they had more issues that they might not even have known, right? They probably didn't see that the security agent was crashing, and they might not have even had some impact. But I identified it and started to look at the entire scope of the problem, which we identify in Nexthink as a reactive plus scenario. We started reactive, but then we graduated to fix it for everybody. We set up that rule to automate it for the entire organization. I want to shift over here before I hand it back over to a completely proactive use case where I don't have users telling me about a problem. I'm not going in and drilling into particular endpoints or going into the depths of Nexthink to find an issue. I'm actually going to rely on our alerts and diagnostics feature that we have embedded into the platform. So, Tim talked about it in his story where, as Nexthink customers mature, you go away from that reactive firefighting mode of improving these issues as they come in, and you start to wait for Nexthink to identify these issues, to tell me about these problems in certain locations with certain device types or certain types of users. So with monitors with alerts, Nexthink's going to do exactly that inside the platform, where I'll show you anomalies or increases with that security agent, right? So I went to it via a device, but that's the number one issue, one of our critical alerts that we have open in our system today, showing me that I have an increase on the crashes with the Windows and Mac OS version of that solution. I also have some slowness happening in SAP. I'm going to save that for, potentially some time at the end. But another issue that I see here is that I have some call quality issues coming in from my Boston office location. I can see that it's impacting a good number of devices, right? It has my tags for O365 and collaboration. But, the more and more that I talk to customers, I think, call quality is increasingly becoming one of the top ticket drivers for people, right? As you're in this hybrid work model, collaborating with your end users, I think is, probably more important than ever. And Teams, Zoom, right? These solutions that we rely on tend to, have some issues throughout the day. So Nexthink can provide some context into there. I can either click on this alert and have Nexthink bubble up some of the issues that, could be tied to some root cause. In this case, we're looking at location information, where again, it looks like I definitely have some problems inside the Boston office. But I'm going to rely on one of our live dashboard functionality, one of the kind of summary places of this data inside Nexthink to do some of this troubleshooting. So I go into my call quality dashboard, which is where all of that Teams and Zoom data is fed into, where I have a score associated to it. So a 96.4 out of 100. So overall, these solutions are pretty stable inside our organization. But remember, that alert was telling me that I had an issue inside Boston. So I can dynamically apply a filter to these devices or to these dashboards and focus solely on those locations. And when I do that, you'll notice that score shifts pretty drastically, right? We're at a 56.8 across the board. And if I actually go over to present day, in some real-time troubleshooting fashion, I have a score of a 20 out of 100. So it's nearly an 80-point drop that we've seen for the users inside that Boston office location. So from here, you can see by these tabs, I have a number of different areas that I can start to drill into. I usually go to that call correlations section because, again, it's leveraging the Nexthink's functions, the embedded technology that we have to isolate where these problems are actually stemming from. So because I already have it filtered out by location, you can see that it's only the US, it's only Massachusetts, it's Boston. I do see that it's only on-site users. So in that hybrid model, we can actually tag folks that are remotely connected versus working inside one of our office locations. In this case, I see that everybody is an on-site employee. So I want to go down to the next level, right, where I have some technical filters, some technical comparisons that I'm doing. And I'm looking at the percentage of poor sessions in comparison to the total number of sessions that I see across the board. And I'm looking at that by operating system, by app version, by device manufacturer, by device model. And I'm not really seeing any correlation, right? I have Win 10, Win 11, Mac OS here, all with 70+% of poor sessions across the board. Same thing for app versions, same thing for manufacturers, same thing for device models. We have a vast variance of types of users, types of devices that are accessing Teams, and all of them are having this issue. So if I scroll down a little bit further, we have a new bucket of data where I'm looking at connection type in this case. And this one is very, very interesting because out of roughly 3,000 sessions, all 3,000 of folks that are Wi-Fi connected are coming back with poor quality. But out of a shade over 800 sessions for Ethernet connected folks, we have a much smaller fraction of users that come back with that poor quality. So I'm starting to paint the picture here, right? Leave the breadcrumb trail of I have a call quality issue inside our Boston office location, really only when people are connected to Wi-Fi. So to verify what my instincts are, what I'm thinking, I'm going to drill into these devices that, again, have these conditions. They have poor call quality. They're sitting in the Boston office location. I'll get the full view here in just a moment once this loads of all of the devices, right? All of those endpoints that we're starting to do some investigations off of. And from here, right, I'll actually go right into one of those endpoints, just like I did in that previous example, where I pulled up that timeline view of that device. And when I do so, I have a similar but different picture to that's being painted to me, right? I do have some app crashes here, right? Chrome is having some issues, Teams is having some issues. As I scroll down, I see a consistent yellow line here telling me that I have a Wi-Fi signal strength alert, right? They have negative 81 dBms, which is just about as bad as you can get while still having an established connection with your network. I have some other conditions here, some other telemetry on that network connection, but consistently, this user is having a Wi-Fi problem. As I scroll down a little bit further, I can see exactly when those users are having those poor team sessions. And I can drill into those poor team sessions and get, again, audio quality. I know what devices, headsets, microphones, speakers that they're using. I know if they're sharing their screen, if they have their camera on, right? All of those different variables and conditions that could lead to some poor call quality I have here. But one of the beauties of Nexthink is it's not just about call quality. It's not just about Teams. I can verify that when they have these signal strength events, I see down below that it also impacts the way that they interact with SAP, the way that they interact with Outlook, with Teams in the web. They have all of these disruptions across multiple different applications, which again is indicative of them having that poor connection issue inside this office location. So I verify that it's a problem. It's definitely the network that they're that's to blame. So I can take this information, I can bring it over to our network team to say, hey, what changed, right? What did you do in the Boston office location in the last 48 hours? Because clearly we're seeing some performance issues across the board. But I don't have to stop there, right? Tim talked about this one key component of Nexthink that I think is extremely vital when we talk about not only shifting from reactive to proactive, but just improving the overall end user experience. And it's this engagement function that we have embedded into Nexthink, where I can reach out to the users, again, strictly the users that are having poor quality inside the Boston office location with Teams in this case, because of the Wi-Fi problem. And I can notify them to say, hey, we know that you're having a problem. Don't contact the help desk because we're already working on a fix, right? The network team hopes to have things restored in 1 to 2 hours. And this will pop up in the bottom right-hand corner in just a moment. But you now have a branded two-way communication channel to reach out to these users and say really whatever message you want to get across. Usually it's ticket avoidance, right? We don't want you to create any more incidents about this problem because we know of it. And hey, we actually have a suggestion for you. Remember in that dashboard that Ethernet connected devices were having successful connections and good quality with Teams. So switch over to an Ethernet cable if possible, depending on your situation. So you can, again, identify the issue, identify the scope, get the right information to the right team in a timely manner. That's a very, very critical point, right? No longer do you have to do that finger pointing game of it's a network issue, it's an infrastructure issue, it's an EUC issue, it's an app owner issue. You can see exactly where that bottleneck is, give that team the right data to go in and remediate, but then you change the perception of IT to the end user. If they have experienced some issues with Teams, they don't have to have the frustration or go through the motions of creating that ticket. They have confidence that IT is working on it because you're reaching out to them in a manual fashion, in an automated fashion. You have that full sort of function with the data and the different modules that Nexthink provides, from that DEX improvement perspective. I'm going to do a quick time check. I think we're close to the end, Tim. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've got, it looks like 4 minutes. If there's a use case you can do in 4 minutes, great. If not, anybody that is watching and wants to get their own personalized demo, of course, we'd be happy to do that as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do anything justice in 4 minutes, Tim. But just some highlights of some other things that Nexthink can address. Hardware refresh, doing performance-based refreshes versus age-based refreshes. We can do software license reclamation based off of utilization metrics. We can do performance data around applications, right? SaaS apps, how quickly things are loading, if there's transaction issues and errors at the web application level, down to full workflow orchestration that we can do with our automation engine inside Nexthink. So
and what I'll mention, sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Please go ahead.
What I'll mention too is that as a 20-year-old platform, it's been completely rewritten over the years. We were created out of an automation, an AI, artificial intelligence tech hub in Switzerland, and brought to market back in 2004. Being on natively on an AI platform allows us to bring in tons of new capabilities. Our next really kind of wow moment is going to be that Gen AI inserted into the product. It's going to release soon and then get better over time, where you can actually go in and ask, do I have anybody using Teams in an office that's only on Wi-Fi, and have it bring back the results and make the platform even more easy to use and consume by your technologists. So it almost makes me want to go back into IT and start using the platform. It really is. It continues to amaze me.
Well
so
said.
With that, why don't we turn it back to Rich, our host, and I think we got a couple of things to give away and then do the closeout.
Sounds good to me.
And while he's coming up on stage, just another thank you to everybody for hanging in with us. I know 45 minutes out of your day is not always easy to do, so appreciate you listening in. And like I said earlier, if anyone's interested in getting more info, be happy to do that one-on-one. So Rich, you're on mute, but we'll turn it back to you.
I don't know why it would put me in the meeting with on mute, but anyway, glad to be here. That was really good information. I enjoyed the webinar and the information you just shared with us, and I hope everybody has a good view of what can be done and what is possible with the product, and get lots of phone calls asking you for some more information. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and say what is up next. We got the Diversity in Tech Virtual Social Hours coming up on June the 20th. I mean, next week. If everybody would wants to go ahead and get signed up for that, you can go to the WEUC website, click on events, and you can sign up there. You can see what other events, great events we've got coming up ahead of everybody. So hey, look at that. Got the link right there, worldofeuc.org/events. That will let you go ahead and see what all ones we have coming up here. And then and Jen, I know we've got some prizes to give away. I did not get the script. The document said I didn't have permission. So if you could give me the name of the person in chat, I will let them know who won the t-shirt. Dylan Power, congratulations, sir. You got a limited edition. No, I'm just kidding. It is a first edition though. World of EUC t-shirt. So we'll get you going there. And then I think you guys Nexthink have somebody else to thank with the mug there.
Absolutely, yeah. The Nexthink branded Yeti mug. Coincidentally enough, and completely coincidental, he just chimed in with great stuff. John Daigle is the winner of the Nexthink Yeti mug, and John will get that out to you ASAP.
Okay, and I think we did actually have, if I can get my controls back up here somewhere. I think you already answered the question. I don't know if you wanted to repeat that or not. Tim, there was a question in that showed up in chat. It was not in the Q&A meeting.
Question in the chat.
Yeah, somebody had asked about whether or not you could find out if if people had all Windows 11 or what kind of queries information that they could come across there.
Yeah.
Yep, I had answered that in the Q&A, but absolutely, not only do we have that data natively, we've also got a robust library pack that gives you everything you need for Windows 11, from readiness to planning to testing, rollout, and then even managing adoption. So lots of robust data to help with that.
Okay. And with that, again, if you guys have some any suggestions or anything, please feel free to email the headquarters, World of EUC. We're getting things going here, trying to get things rolling, coming soon. Hopefully we'll have some local groups, meetups and so forth, so everybody can get together and shake hands, meet face to face, all those things that we've come to really miss from in the last couple of years. I know I every time I go to one of those events, I was just down at an event in Fort Lauderdale, and it's so much nicer to actually meet with people and sit down and shake hands and ask questions face to face. So with that, with no further ado, thank everybody for coming up, for showing up today, and have a great day. And thank you for joining. And we'll talk to you all
Thanks,
later. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Take care.